Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to all of our colleagues in the hotel industry and outside the hotel industry to this fireside chat with Ajay Bakaya, who is an established veteran in the industry. He's been there for years, and he's made some interesting transition from what was a start of career as a luxury as a executive in a luxury chain to establishing a very successful mid-scale chain, the Sarovar hotels. I think it'll be of great interest to hear from him. I'm going to ask him to join us in just a minute. In the meantime, I'd just like to say I hope everybody is well and safe, and we all pray for the well-being of all of you, your families, your teams, your colleagues. Stay safe in these difficult times. Just a quick bit of housekeeping. The webinar is being run on this platform so that we are able to deliver to you a consistent experience which does not permit any interruptions from outside, which means that all of you are muted. You're welcome to ask questions. There are set places within the screen that you would have, the system that you're using, whether it's a web browser, a mobile app, or a desktop, and you can type in your questions there. Our team is standing by to look at those questions and to feed them across to me. They will feed them across to me on WhatsApp. So if you do see me looking at my phone, it's not a lack of attention. It's just looking at the questions that are coming in. But other than that, it's a simple thing. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation with Ajay Bakaya. Unfortunately, everybody else is muted. Ajay, would you like to join us, please?
Hello, Vijay.
Hi, Ajay. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm well. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for making the time in these sort of challenging times when I'm sure there's a lot of demand on your time from various other pressures. Hopefully, all is just the official pressures rather than anything else. But let's start, Ajay, by talking about.
Ajay, I can't hear you too well. I hope you can hear me. Is my audio clear?
I can hear you fairly well. Is there a difficulty in hearing my audio? Is this better?
Yeah, you're not coming across very well.
You are
turn off my camera for a moment. You think that might help?
You are freezing once in a while, but I think we'll manage that.
All right. Okay, go right ahead, Vijay.
Okay. Ajay, we are, as you know, as everybody knows, we are in the throes of our second wave in India, maybe the third or fourth wave.
Is that better, Vijay? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well. Yes. So if okay, it means that if you prefer to be off camera for the internet reasons, you can toggle that. That's really fine. But Ajay, where do you see this playing out for the hotel industry? How do you see sort of the rest of Q1 playing out, and how do you see the recovery aspect of for the hotel industry from this second challenge that we are facing 12 months from the first one?
Well, to begin with, at this point of time, we're sitting on absolute disaster. I think we've got to acknowledge that fact first, and perhaps for just a few brief moments, put aside our eternal optimism. At this point of time, things are not so hot. April has been washed off, and I see that we can practically write off the month of May. So as far as Q1 is concerned, 2 months out of 3 are gone. We had made significant gains November, December, January, February, even March. March was perhaps just a tad below Feb, but it's still a good month. April has been bad, and given the way things are going, I think May is going to be as bad or similar, or perhaps even worse. How soon before we get back to normal? Quite honestly, there is an opinion every day, or a few opinions every day. I don't know. All I can say is that this is not going to be as long drawn out as the earlier one. It's going to be a shorter span of time, and I presume recovery is going to be a little faster. But at this point of time, when is the tide going to turn? My guess is 15 to 20 days before it starts turning, another 10 days before it stabilizes. So optimistically, we can look forward to recovery in June.
Yeah, starting to recover in June. And it's interesting you say that. We have to bear context to the fact that you have a lot of hotels outside the main cities. And what we saw in the sort of Q4 2020, Q1 2021 recovery time, that the hotels outside the main cities also did reasonably well, if not fairly well. And at this point, I guess all of them are severely impacted as well. Do you see a different position there?
No, I don't. Not from the point of view of size of city. We do have certain pockets of positivity or optimism. Goa is still doing okay. Pondicherry is doing okay. Shimla, Mashobra is doing okay. So these are isolated pockets, and they're all leisure pockets. As far as business is concerned, irrespective of whether it's large city, small city, mid-sized city, they're all reeling badly. I think you see lockdowns and curfews and et cetera, rightfully so, in pretty much all of these cities.
Yeah. So, but when you see the recovery, are you anticipating the recurrence of sort of the people coming back mainly for leisure, but also using the second-tier cities, the second-tier markets for business travel or for other travel, and the weddings business coming back? Or do you see any shift in that this time? Do you see the propensity to spend turning a little bit south this time, or you see it remaining where it is?
I don't see the propensity to spend turning south. I think that part we're okay. Also, Vijay, we had seen a steady improvement in business travel or corporate travel. Your IT companies, the big ones, the mega ones, were not traveling. They have worked out a system where work from home and do not travel works well for them. They have fairly high productivities, even in those parameters. But younger executives of a lot of companies, FMCGs, insurance, automobile, et cetera, were beginning to travel. Real estate. They needed to be on the move. They needed to be in touch with their customers, and that was happening in the smaller and the larger cities. So I think when we see a comeback, we see a comeback pretty much everywhere. Business takes a little longer than leisure because there is so much pressure from within the organization, and again, rightfully so, to say take it easy and don't be in a rush to travel right now till things get better. Weddings, there was a lot of hope on April, May, and June in 2021. We have a significant number of auspicious dates, Saya dates, so we were looking at milking those dates, particularly in states like Punjab, Chandigarh, a lot of the other larger cities, North India. Now that part's gone, at least for April and May is gone, and perhaps we can recover some of June. And then the wedding season comes back only September, October, November. So I think by that time, yes, we hope to come back to reasonable sized weddings. I think we'll all agree at the moment that safety comes before business for all of us, despite the business we are in, and we need to be safe first. But Vijay, the combined effect of a vaccination drive available from next month to people over 18, and the impact of these lockdowns that are coming in, that are in place now, perhaps a little too late, should bring us back in the right direction, on the right track 2 or 3 months from now.
Yeah, at least that is a hope that the vaccinations, assuming they're available in adequate numbers and across the board, and while my personal view is, and I think it's echoed by a lot of people, that one really wishes that the hotel sector employees had been given priority vaccination, because if we are not absolutely the front line, then we are not way behind the front line in terms of workers, because they're using a lot of hotels for treatment and for quarantine and all of that as well. But at least now, hopefully, either the hotel companies or I don't know, even the associations should try and ensure that the hotel sector employees get access immediately to vaccinations, and we really have a mass vaccination for all our people. I think our people deserve that, and hopefully authorities will recognize if nothing else, the economic importance of that. Forget the human importance, which they should have seen before. But hopefully.
Well, it has happened, by the way, in the city of Chennai. The Chennai Metropolitan Development Authority and the health authorities recognize hotel employees as frontline workers, and everyone was vaccinated there. So, but that's an exception to the rule. It hasn't happened officially elsewhere in the country.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, and that's good news. At least there it has been recognized. I hope other states follow suit on that. But tell me, with the kind of recovery that you were talking about, do you see the mid-scale sector, the upscale, mid-scale, upper mid-scale hotels, maybe even the budget economy hotels, having a sort of a better position to get back demand as compared to the upper tier hotels?
Vijay, yes, largely yes. Also, I would differentiate much more on size. I think in anything that's not very high inventories, anything around that 100 key mark, anything without multiple restaurants, anything without colossal public spaces, has hotels in that area have a better chance of recovery. Because what we learned in the last 12 months is that while you can cut a lot of your costs, you still need to maintain all your plant and machinery, make sure it's in running condition. If it's not, it costs you a lot more to fix it later. You got to keep your place clean. You got to keep your gardens, your lawns, those areas going. So all that is a large fixed cost. So I think hotels that are smaller in size and are not saddled with very high inventories or very high public spaces will come back faster than the bigger hotels.
And what you're saying is come back faster from a bottom line perspective, but at the top line perspective, in terms of sort of the guest profile that will come back, at least on the business travel, not the leisure travel. The business travel will possibly be more orientated towards the sort of the upscale, mid-scale products rather than the luxury products. Of course, I see at least on the leisure side, particularly staycations, people are using the luxury hotels at profiles that they would not otherwise have done because of the pricing that they're getting. Yeah.
Well, I think the profiles are morphing. The profiles are morphing considerably. Because honestly, if you still rely on conventional sources of business, you'd be dead. Even in the best case scenario that we've seen in the last 4 or 5 months, and the best case scenario over the next 6 to 12 months. So one has to go out and look for business that you are not otherwise looking for, from film production companies to anything that is unstructured, COVID-related hospitals, whatever. So the profile of the customer is changing anyways. There is a high level of price sensitivity. And yes, mid-market upscale is better positioned that way to come back for a faster recovery.
Let's talk about profile. I mean, I understand the profile is changing. Let's look at it from 2 aspects. How deep is that change, and how, for how long is it going to sustain? Is it going to, is a fair amount of it going to be only for the next few months, whatever those months are, once the pandemic is behind us? And the second question is that the more permanent changes of profile, what are they meaning for the hotels, the hotel products?
Okay, great question. So one part of it is that is the change transient, or will some of it be more longer term? I think the change of meetings in hotels or more frequent in-person meetings is semi-permanent at least. It'll take 2 to 5 years for that to reverse, despite human affinity to meet with each other. And nobody can deny that me and you sitting across the table is a lot better than me and you sitting across a camera. But still, people have over the last year or year and few months got used to managing without traveling, and now got used to managing well without traveling, within certain cost resources and with high levels of efficiencies. So some part of that is going to rub off into the future. The level of travel, the extensive level of travel that we saw is perhaps going to take a beating, definitely for the immediate short or midterm, and perhaps even for the longer term. We don't know. Now, one very interesting segment that we never looked at earlier on, that's emerged in the last few months, are people that are shooting and producing all the rubbish and other stuff that we watch every day on Netflix and Amazon and Sony and blah 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 blah. Now, all the big production houses aren't doing these shoots themselves. They're passing them off, hiding them off to smaller houses located in different parts of the country. There is high demand. Again, there is price sensitivity, but there is high demand for a large number of hotel rooms for a month, for 2 months, for 3 months, for 4 months. So that's one example of a changing profile. It's a profile we never went after. It's a profile that is highly price sensitive. It's a profile that's in the hotel sometimes, not in the hotel for many hours, and have different requirements. What does it do to your design? Still early days, but I think technology will have to come in more and more into contactless. That's very definitely the future. So the lesser the contact, the better off you are. That's one. The lesser the physical contact, the better off you are. Technology will take over in that area, and I think we'll have to cater to your new set of requirements. So it's still in flux. We are working out what it is. And it's very difficult in a 6-month span to decide what's going to happen over the next few years. I think it'll take us a little longer, better research, more in-depth research with more customers to really figure out what design changes need to be put in place permanently.
And that I agree with you that it's still early days to understand what COVID-induced changes will drive design or business changes in the future. But let's put aside COVID for a moment. Let's happily assume it wasn't there. What kind of customer expectation aspects, attributes, what kind of customer profile changes, demographic evolution are you seeing that would have caused your business to look different, let's say 5-7 years from now, than it was, let's say, pre-COVID?
Vijay, I would say technology and probably speeding up of technology. Of course, it was always changing and changing fairly rapidly, but we're speeding more or moving more faster on the change of technology. And the switch over from into gadgets that will take care of you rather than people taking care of you, irrespective of what category of hotel that you're in. I think we are in to see more of those changes, from keyless to tablets to your mobile doing most of the work. So you don't even need another gadget, interface with your mobile, and that allows you to do what you want to do, from food orders to room service to whatever special requests you have. So I think it would be strongly technology oriented and conveying the feeling of safety and more health consciousness.
Okay, let's look at the subject on the basis of which I'll also, one of the things that I introduced you on, which was the fact that you started your career in the luxury sector. And then you set up with Mr. Madhok this very successful Sarovar hotels, upscale, mid-scale, or whatever you call it, but it's in the middle of the market, and also some good economy hotels. What drove that change, and what challenges did you face? And I know these were challenges that may not sound relevant today, but you made this change in the late 90s. So it was probably about 23, 25 years ago, let's say 20 plus years ago. What were the difficulties that you faced, and what drove this?
Okay, so on a lighter note, let me bring in a new element here. I started my career selling pharmaceuticals. I went doctor to doctor, pharmacy to pharmacy, in the remote parts of Rajasthan and then remote parts of Punjab, and learned a lot of lessons about life there. I did that for 2 years, and very accidentally applied and got into the Oberoi hotel management program. I'd never planned hotel management. It happened. It just happened. An ad in the Tribune, and I applied and I got in. So that was, I'm an accidental hotelier from that point of view. At the point of time that I joined Sarovar, my hotel career, hospitality career had taken a different turn. I had left an assignment of second in command for a 600-room hotel in Sydney, Australia, and moved to Holland to set up a trading business with an old hotel colleague, and that business failed. And Mr. Madok was one of the two people who had already sort of always mentored me and who I sort of turned to. And I picked up the phone and called him and saying, "Look, I'm in a not so nice situation." And he said, "You know what, Ajay, we just started this ball rolling, and come in here." And he said, if me and you with our experiences can't run a hotel in this country, then nobody can. It's a good time to start it. So keep don't think and come on over. So that's how the Sarovar baby for me started off. It was Mr. Madok's guidance. It was his foresight, his thought process, his vision that took us where we are. The challenges initially were to get accustomed to moving dramatically and rapidly from a luxury hotel scenario or a very large hotel scenario of 600 rooms, 650 rooms, 1,000 rooms, and different play on costs to thinking as my owner was thinking. And this was an owner of a 60, 70, 80, 100 room hotel who had his loans to worry about, who had his repayments to worry about, who wasn't particularly concerned about how good you were in putting in processes and systems if you were not able to drive business to his hotels. So the challenges were immense. And I think in the initial stages, the sagacity and the experience of somebody like Mr. Madok took us through. We had some very rough moments. It was difficult to convince owners to hand over their hotels to us. It was difficult to get vendor deals and all those sorts of things. And we always had to balance out the fact that we were providing the know-how to run a hotel, but equally important to my owner or my owners was the fact that I had to bring in the business. Otherwise, all the know-how in the world was no good to him.
Sure.
Attracting talent was that much more difficult. You were part of something nobody knew about. I had a lot of time in the first 10 years or so explaining to my own family what I was doing.
I can imagine, because it's if you look at the typical numbers for a 70, 80 room mid-scale hotel, your numbers for a month are probably smaller than what you were looking at on a per day basis for your bigger hotels. So to get your mind around, to get your mind around that, I mean, I know as an auditor, sometimes, you just finished a large listed company balance sheet, and then you get one of those small companies, and you just sort of walk through it and you miss everything, because everything, everything looks so small and insignificant. And then you say, no, it's not, because for this balance sheet, it is different. So, but tell me, in terms of performance metrics or any control aspects, were there anything different that you had to look at, maybe from a cost perspective, a revenue perspective, anything different that you had to concentrate on when you were looking at the mid-scale hotels rather than the upper tier hotels?
Absolutely. I think my then recent experiences of a market like Australia and working for a very large hotel as a management company, representing a management company for very huge owners, was the play on cost and the efficiency of payroll. And I realized very soon that in the Indian context, for my smaller hotels in whether it was Agra, whether it was Bombay, whether it was Goa, the focus on cost was critical. We couldn't afford wastage, you couldn't afford number twos in departments, you couldn't afford number twos in hotels for that matter. So you had to make sure that everyone was carrying his or her weight. We gave in a huge amount of inputs at that point of time because we had more time in our hands. I remember in the initial years, I used to get into a hotel on a Monday morning and leave on the Saturday morning. So I was there much to the chagrin of the general manager, morning, noon, and night in that hotel. And we looked microscopically at things. So yeah, I think the big issue was cost effectiveness, efficiency, making sure that what you were talking about is actually put in practice.
Okay. Any variations on the GOP metrics, expectations, or the sort of the room expense? I mean, we know that it's a big difference, but anything in particular that you had to look at?
In Sydney, we worked on staff to room ratios of 0.5. But different productivity levels, very, very reliable plant and machinery. Nothing would ever go wrong in your engineering. Or 650 rooms, you had a team of 7 or 8, and in the night there was nobody there. But things worked, nothing fell apart. Different ball game in India. Reliability levels, productivity levels. So we worked, and we still work on some 1 and 1.2, unless there's F&B loading. But in my mind, if you put everything that there is, from trainees to contract workers, et cetera, 1.2 is a decent ratio. So that was one part of it. We operated in the initial stages on payroll cost of 12-13% of revenue. As a group, we now sit at about 18%, and that's 25 years down the line. So we watched that very carefully. We watched HLP very carefully and what all we could do out there. The focus was look microscopically at things, educate your general managers, your department heads, your employees on what really matters. And equally importantly, try to build your ability more and more to bring in business to the hotels. So we went around the market. I went around the market personally and met with the agents, met with my customers, and said, we need your business, we need your business, we need your business. What can we do for you? So I think there was fortunately there weren't too many players in the mid market at that time. Especially people that were managing hotels. There was choice before us, and there were ourselves, and very little else in the mid market segment.
Yeah, I know it sort of started picking up, I would say, in the 2005, 4-5 period or something like that. And then you started seeing the mid-market segment getting a good leg up, both from domestic brands and international brands. And what do you think drove that change? Was it just the changing demographics or the changing pattern of travel? Have we lost Ajay? Looks like we've lost Ajay. Sorry, everybody, please hold on. I'm sure he'll join back in a minute. This is Ajay, are you able to hear us?
Yeah, go ahead, please. Sorry.
So what was it that changed the sort of the growth position and created the opportunity for more growth? Let's say starting mid 2005, the mid of the first decade.
Well, we started off, the company started off in 94, 95. I joined in 1996. So from 95 to 2005, we have 10 years of decent growth. We focus very, very strongly on owner relationships. We do that even today. We think like our owners do. We think as if we were sitting in the owner's shoes. And we spend a lot of time on building that basis and building the relationship. So rather than being confrontationists and saying, oh, we are operators and we know better, and would you please let us do our job? We always say to our owners, we hear you. Since you brought us in, please let us run the show without our hands tied behind our backs. But we are happy to hear you. We're happy to have you sit in and have an office and sit in the hotel. We're happy to talk to you often and frequently. We're discussing policies with you in terms of labor. We're discussing policies in terms of marketing and pricing that you're going to live with for many, many, many years, perhaps even after I've gone. So we'll discuss all those things with you, get a sign off, and then work within those parameters. I think we spent that time with good intention, and that helped us build very strong owner referral and owner sentiment, positive owner sentiment. All our hotels were not booming. All our hotels are still not booming. Well, it's a wrong thing to say right now. Nobody's hotels are booming. But I think in the last 25 years, there would be very few, if any, owners who would talk negatively about the way we behaved and the way we acted and the amount of attention we gave to their hotels and to owners and their thoughts. So I think that was one big thing. The other thing, we went ahead and invested in good people, both in sales and marketing and our sales and marketing offices, the infrastructure, and in areas like a corporate chef, a corporate housekeeper, corporate engineering services, et cetera. We were and we are today providing much more backup service and support service in this country than any other hotel company that I'm aware of. And it's our cost.
Yeah. And I think that is critical, and particularly if you're able to centralize it and provide it, which you have to at this level, then certainly that's a huge advantage. But there is actually not just a belief. The statistics show that the sort of the domestic brands, and I hate to try and make this distinction because it's in a sense not fair, but I think it's important to talk about it. I think the domestic brands have been more successful than the international hotel companies and brands when it comes to the mid-scale. Would you like to explain why that is the case?
Okay, I think we draw a distinction once again between companies managing hotels and companies franchising hotels.
Yeah.
And I go from a management perspective.
Yes, please. Absolutely.
The multinational companies are more used to, you take the big boys, you take the Marriotts, the Intercons, the Hiltons, the Accors, the very, very big boys, the Radissons are more comfortable, are in their zone or in their sweet spot, let's say, to run hotels which are 200 to 400, 500 rooms plus. They're more comfortable. Those hotels largely happen in big cities, happen in tier A cities, largely, especially in India. Those hotels have revenues that can support department heads with big salaries. Now, the moment you move away from a Mumbai to a Nashik, or from a Chennai to a Coimbatore, or from a Hyderabad to a Vijayawada, the paradigm changes. You can't afford, your revenues are different, your rates are different, your size of hotel is different. You can't afford those costs and those people, or even those competencies of people. So you got to change and adapt. And the bigger boys have been slow in adapting to that, because they say, well, this is the way we do things. And in their sphere, in their sweet spot, they do those things very well. I remember meeting some I think 10 odd years ago, or maybe a little more, with the then CFO of Starwood, who said to us, you know what, guys, 200 rooms, 300 rooms, big cities in the world, we know what to do. But running 80 rooms in smaller cities in India, you guys can do a better job, and it's not a game. So I think what's helped us there is our ability to adapt from the bigger to the smaller, and not say that we must do it the same manner, the same cookie cutter, irrespective of where you are.
Okay.
You're also dealing with different owner backgrounds and owner what should I say, owner needs, owner aspirations. Aspirations, and different.
Yes, absolutely. Ajay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, loud and clear. I hope I am audible.
Yes. It's, as you were saying, it's a question of the owner aspirations being different, and you've got to adapt to that, particularly different approaches in different parts of the country, right?
Yeah, you can't be a management company and survive on the laurels of a large company, so many hotels, so many thousand rooms, without understanding what the owner really requires. If you can't get into his head and think like him, you have no future as a management company.
Okay, that's a very, very powerful and very strong statement to make, particularly to understand the ramifications of managing mid-scale hotels across different parts of India. I think that's a big lesson for all of us. Does the fact that these hotels also have banquet needs or banquet opportunities in the respective markets. They're probably among the best hotels in their respective markets. And the banqueting presents a lot of opportunity, which the chains from India have been able to adapt to, while they don't fit in with, let's say, the brand standards of some of the international companies. Is that also a differentiating factor?
Well, you know, what's become clearer in the last 10 odd years or so of running hotels in India is that your hotel formula, 9 out of 10, if not 95 out of 100, needs to have the largest possible banquet space in the city. You don't necessarily need very large room inventory to go with that banquet space, but you need a reasonable number of rooms depending on where you are, but you need large banqueting. If you look at most cities in Punjab, you can, to my mind, building anything more than 100 rooms makes no sense, but you can do banqueting 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 square feet. So banqueting is a crucial factor. And the biggest revenue earner in those banquets is our weddings, the shadis. Now, for most people in India, and I think all of us need to understand the thinking behind this. For most people in India, a wedding is a means for a person to announce that where he is in life, to his community, to his social status group. So a lot of money gets spent on weddings, trying to convince people around you that you're in a good spot. So it's a huge money earner. And you've got to then turn and twist everything around to make sure that money earner is performing to its maximum potential. And quite honestly, I'm happy with a single restaurant and large banqueting versus 2 or 3 restaurants and a couple of bars and mid-sized banqueting. So yeah, banqueting is important. Weddings is even more important in that banqueting segment. And all of us need to adapt as hoteliers to take care of the event managers and the customers and make sure that we can every day imagine new things and do new things for them to make their wedding special and a bit extra beyond what the last person did.
Okay, that's again a very powerful message to the mid segment, but also to hotels and hotel managers outside the main cities, if not in the main cities as well. We talked about franchising and put it aside for a moment, but let's pick it up for a conversation. India has typically not been great for franchising, and I think I know the reasons for that, but I'd like to hear your views on that. Well, why has India not been a great market for franchising, and what could change in the future, if at all it could?
Okay, let's look at where franchising has been really successful. It's been particularly successful in the US. It's been particularly successful in Europe. Two huge markets, colossal markets. And the reason is that the systems, distribution systems, reservation systems were able to deliver very large chunks of business to their franchisees. The technology fell in place. They had the people, they had the teams, they had the networks, and they delivered very well. But just some of that has changed over the last 5 odd years. Everywhere in the world, the online travel agency platform is delivering more and more and more. But okay, I won't go to OTA for the moment. Let's just look at franchising. So, and franchising cannot be successful without a large network of people on the ground in the country. So it worked in America because the larger companies had their networks, had their teams all over the place, making sure business happened. Same thing happened in Europe. The people that came into franchising in the mid-market in India were offering a name and a sign, but no local support. Without local support, you can't deliver in this country.
Sure.
So,
sure.
Okay. The other thing is that how do you make sure, if you are true to your brand and if you are passionate about your brand, if you want to protect your brand, that a brand is not being misused tomorrow by somebody who doesn't have the time to look at what the standards are.
Yeah.
May not have the time, may not have the inclination, may not want to spend the money. So one's got to choose carefully. It's a good way to grow fast, but one's got to choose very carefully. Look at owner backgrounds, look at the product, and make sure it's not a compromise. And be prepared to check things every 3 months or 6 months. Be prepared to jettison hotels and let them go if they're not following your standards. If you set a high benchmark for hotel standards, you have a possibility of franchising and franchising well. But standards need to be not compromised and need to be good and consistent. That's the key. And you need people on the ground to be selling those hotels. So you can't depend on just a large brand and say, big brand in the world, put it on your roof, it'll work. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, sure. You've got to deliver the business. And I think that while the standards have been set and have been set well by a lot of the companies, but like it or not, the Indian psyche is not for being very compliant. It is doing what works rather than or the sort of doing just enough rather than doing consistently to a standard, and that starts hurting the delivery of a consistent brand standard at lots of properties, which I think has been one of the limitations of franchising in the country. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. At Sarovar now, we've something changed for us over the last year or so. We now have the Golden Tulip portfolio in India, and GT is a fairly successful franchise brand, definitely in Europe and other parts of the world. And we are developing systems in place. We're putting systems in place where we can build that as a franchise brand. The moment you want to build a brand first and a portfolio that comes along as a result of it, your progress is slower, but it is surer. And over the long term, you'll benefit.
Yes.
So the key is not to compromise your standards.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't compromise your standards, and particularly in a country like India, where the degree of compliance is highly variable. The possibility of the risk of that non-compliance is high. Yeah, you've got to have the system to ensure that. I'm glad you brought in the subject of Golden Tulip, because that was going to be one of my next questions. I mean, you are managing hotels besides the Sarovar brands of Portico, Premier, and Hometel. You're also managing a few hotels under various Radisson brands and also Golden Tulip hotels now. Is there a potential for you to become a third-party operator besides the portfolio that you have?
Yeah, for sure. And we've had several discussions, I'd say, with most of the major hotel companies or major international hotel companies. And I'll tell you quite honestly why it hasn't worked as well as it could possibly work. The big boys say, well, this is my rate chart, so to say. These are my fees, and I can't do anything about it. If I add franchise fees as a rate card to management fees as a rate card, it doesn't work for the owner.
It never works, no.
So both sides have to get together and say, for greater good and greater benefit, and for better growth and for better deals to owners, let's both take haircuts and see what we can do for an owner. My understanding is very clearly that if something is not working well for the owner, it'll never work for either a franchisor or an operator.
Absolutely.
So we are at the crossroads. Yes, we are happy to be third-party operators as long as it adds value to the owner, to Sarovar, and to the franchisor.
And you're already having proof of the pudding that you've had deals that could be structured to work for, say, Radisson and Golden Tulip as franchisors, Sarovar as operators, and of course the owners. So there has been a proven case history there, and that could become the basis for more. Right?
Very much so. Very much so.
Any challenges you see besides the deal-making portion, from an operations side? Do you see any challenges if you've got to manage multiple brands or hotels with multiple brands?
No. So what we've done so far, at least in Sarovar, in our organization, we haven't converted our corporate team into silos. So all the support teams, whether it be sales and marketing, whether it be the PR front, whether it be engineering services, whether it's chefs, housekeepers, IT, etc., are supporting everything. they are cross-exposed, they are cross-educated on the needs of the different brands, but they're supporting everything. And we want to keep it that way. So we don't want an A team and a B team and a C team. And as long as we have the versatility and the flexibility, I don't see challenges. We need to understand the sensitivities of every brand and make sure we can deliver. And also make sure that if there is info that is confidential, it stays confidential.
Sure, sure. What about overseas? I mean, you've got a few hotels in Africa, I guess a handful. But do you see the potential for a brand like Sarovar, with the fact that you're part of a international group, Lugo Hotels now? Do you see a potential to take Sarovar overseas in a bigger way, or a goal even to do that?
I think the fact that we have a larger brand or a larger umbrella certainly helps. But GT has their own territories and their own people managing those territories. So it's not the easiest thing in the world. But given the fact that we have a larger overall umbrella, it makes things easier. So by the way, we signed 2 deals already for Nepal, which is closer to us. It's taken us a lot of time to get into that market, but we've managed. Sri Lanka is a possibility, except most people in Sri Lanka, most owners want you to come in with some money, and that's not our model. So we haven't been able to get in there. The natural area for us is the Middle East. We have Africa, we have India. Both merge into the Middle East in terms of people, in terms of talent, in terms of business, in terms of client and demand. We were in Dubai for 2 or 3 years, and the owners exited that hotel. And we've not been so lucky because the Middle East largely works on leases, and again, we are not into the lease game at all. But we hope to crack that sooner rather than later and spread out more. We have a lot of faith and trust in Africa. It works slowly. It's painstaking. It's difficult. It's more challenging. But I think there's more scope there than what we've showcased so far.
Any markets where there is a bigger Indian diaspora, but which may be good but otherwise challenging? Asia is too big a challenge.
Markets like Singapore are very heavily developed. In more ways than one. So we haven't done that. I had several invitations to go to the US, but to us it didn't make sense. You can't be sitting here and handling the US. You've got to be sitting there, which means then setting up a new setup there altogether. So it didn't make too much sense to us. But yeah, I think the Middle East is a big one, and in Asia, perhaps countries like Malaysia. But we haven't had a huge amount of success so far in our initial forays there.
And I agree with you that, the point you make about not being able to manage a big country sitting in India, you can't go in with 1 or 2 hotels. Either you have a good mass, a critical mass, or you're not there. Otherwise, if you go in with just a little bit there, just you're dipping your toe in the water, you're going to set up to fail. Yeah, and I think India has got a huge potential itself, untapped yet.
That's true. Also, we had an invite from one of our owners in Punjab to say, come to London. He had a property in London. And I said, quite honestly, I don't have the bandwidth. I don't understand that market. It's a very advanced, very mature market. So I'm going to take 6 to 12 months to figure it out. And if you're willing to bear with me on that, sure. But please keep in mind the fact that in addition to the trust that you're reposing in us, it will take us time to figure things out. And like you said, a hotel in that large market, the benefits you bring in are limited.
Yeah. Oh, digital penetration has become a very important aspect of business across all segments, and particularly when you're in a price-driven market, and obviously you want to deliver a better bottom line. And the OTAs have been big players in this, but also very expensive players. Do you see the hotel companies being able to successfully create an alternative to this? And how would that need to be approached?
It would need to be approached without direct confrontation. I think confrontation is not the answer. I know that lead companies like Marriott or Accor have talked about this, thought about this. I have had discussions from people in big positions in large hotel companies in India saying, let us as large hotel companies get together and set up our own platform. We control 80% of the country's inventory. We can't possibly go wrong. But I think it's got to be a lot more than that. It's got to be technology driven. It's got to be non-confrontational. So if somebody invests in technology in a big way, and Vijay, this can't be done without investment. There's a large investment. And then say, okay, here's the platform, and without saying to the OTAs, hey guys, we want to shoot you because you've taken so much money away from us, and thank you very much. We'll never look at you again. I think it's got to be, okay, you have a platform, I have another one, and I have this to offer. It's possible, but it's a difficult challenge, and perhaps possible only for the very big boys or somebody as smart as Ritesh of Oyo or smarter to come up with a plan that we guys don't normally imagine.
Well, a consolidation.
I won't go to battle with the OTAs. They are my partners. I benefit from them, irrespective of the fact that yes, it's expensive, but they bring us a lot of business, and I wouldn't at any point of time look at them as enemies confrontationally.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to exchange blows, but you can sidestep the blows and still make progress.
I don't think they'll grudge you the fact that you want to do things in a manner that is more beneficial to your business, but it's got to have a lot of thought going into it, a lot of planning going into it, and huge investment in technology.
But do you think it's possible?
Absolutely. Very much so.
Okay. Loyalty programs. What is your view on loyalty programs? At your segment of the market.
I think they serve a purpose. Do they create loyalty? No. But do they help in keeping your customers more satisfied? Yes. Everybody is part of every loyalty program. Most loyalty programs don't let your points expire, so you can use them whenever you accumulate them, and people are happy to have the facility. So yeah, I think it's a small edge. It's better to have one than not to have
one. Does it cost too much to have it, or is it a cost worthwhile?
Well, I think the cost is very worthwhile. And it's best to bring in a third party who's a specialist to run the show. The cost is very small, and actually, your guests are paying for the cost.
Sure, they are in several ways. In fact, your owners also may not, may benefit from that if that becomes a good sort of sales opportunity. Rather than
owners don't grudge loyalty programs at all. They grudge loyalty programs which mean paying a huge amount of money to a parent company just to enroll people, for example. But they don't grudge loyalty programs that are reasonable because it's on delivery. If a guest comes in, he accumulates points, and the system works well. Owners are quite happy with loyalty programs.
Let's look at things from your perspective. What keeps you motivated to keep doing what you've been doing for so many years, and I hope you do keep doing it for many more years. But what keeps you motivated to do that, and what drives you?
I saw a recent interview of Andre Agassi, and he said, and this struck a chord. He said he was number 1 in the world, and he was number 140 in the world. And he said, it doesn't really matter whether you're 1 or 140. You got to wake up in the morning and say to yourself, how can I get better? How can I improve? And I think that's one of my motivation points. I don't think I've reached the stage when I know it all. I learn every day. I learn from my colleagues. I learn from my subordinates. I learn from my adversaries, my competitors, from my owners. And my thing is, what can I do to make my organization sharper, smarter, better position versus my competition, more intelligent, more tech savvy, more productive, more efficient, and it keeps me going. I've been in the business now 42 years, and I still enjoy it. So yes, as long as I enjoy it, I will put in some more years.
That's great. That's great. 42 years is a very long period. But yeah, and
If
that's
it's
why I
fun,
asked you.
it passes quickly.
Yeah, it passes very quickly. That's true. If there was one thing that you would look at and say that I'd like the hotel industry in India to do this differently, whether it's process, whether it's even consolidation at certain levels, what would that one thing be?
I think it's a big item on a wish list, but the one thing really would be to find a way to not drop your pants all the time. In a competitive, and it's easier said than done, but in a competitive scenario with different demands on debt repayments and cash flows, etc., uh, you have all of us go down on rates and rates and rates and rates, and you say, well, what can I do? This is what the guy wants, and the next guy will take it at a lower rate. And we've gone through that for many years. We're still going through that. And I was saying to somebody recently, the cost of a CT scan in a hospital is far greater than a rate a hospital is willing to pay you to put up COVID positive people in your hotel, all meals, all taxes paid. So it doesn't make sense. But the fact is that the answer is, well, you know what? There's enough people to take that business. So I wish we could somehow, some magic wand, bring in a system, a process, a maturity level where we don't drop our rates beyond a certain point. It costs money to build hotels. It costs money to operate hotels.
Yes. Everybody else prices their product, of course, market driven to some extent, but prices their product on a cost, recognizing that cost the hotel industry does not. We tend to drop our rates and play with our rates far too much. And in that sense, undervalue ourselves. So what advice would you give to younger hotel managers, to staff, and even the students who are sort of in an odd situation today as they complete their hotel studies?
To students particularly, expand your perspective. Add something to your knowledge base every 6 months, every year, and it doesn't have to be hotels. Learn about other things in life. Learn more and more, and you will be better positioned to pick up new challenges, to pick up new positions, to pick up new opportunities. Don't become a super specialist in any single field, and really enrich yourself, expand yourself, go beyond the normal realms, and go way beyond learning just about hotels and hotel keeping and how to run bakeries and kitchens and housekeeping and all those things. Go way beyond that. Expand your horizon. Youngsters today will need to really metamorphosize themselves, and they're learning every 10 years. Otherwise, they will not have jobs. The scenario is changing very rapidly, and they need to learn a new skill all the time. It doesn't have to be academic. It doesn't have to be hotel keeping. But the more you know, the better off you are, the better chances you have in life to succeed. Expand your horizon.
Expand your horizon.
And always to a new guy in a hotel business, to students, put up your hand and say, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, even if it's not your work. Very few people raise hands when people need to raise hands. You're tired, you finish your shift, something needs to be done. So I'll do it. That gives you more learning, gives you, again, better opportunity when the opportunity comes to grab it.
That's great advice for students, and the fact, and I think it's very honest advice that they need to be better rounded and wider in their approach. Absolutely. You have an opportunity to either agree or disagree with Bill Gates. There's a question that's come in which says that recently Bill Gates, in one of his articles, said that business travel will be diminished after COVID, and probably he meant that, and hopefully he meant that only for the US. But where do you see the position for India?
I think it'll be impacted for sure. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Bill Gates and his thinking, and I think more pertinent for the US or for better developed economies. But yes, it will have an impact in India for sure, and it will have a lasting impact. And we've got to find a way to replace that business, or to be so much more providers of technology and ambience to somebody who wants to conduct a business meeting in a hotel. What can I offer him beyond his hotel room? What can I offer him in terms of oversized TV screens that he doesn't have at home or an office? What can I offer him in terms of connectivity? So if you think of those lines, we have better chances. But yes, Bill Gates is right when he says it will have a lasting impact on people's travel.
When you say lasting impact, would you say 3 years, 5 years, or permanent?
I would say semi-permanent, for sure, for the next 2 or 3 years, definitely. And you know, things evolve. But I think over the long term there would be greater impact.
Another question that came in, you know, you talked about franchising and the need for on-ground support. Is the evolution of technology able to sort of partially offset that? Or is it really still the need for on-ground support? And maybe it's the evolution of the market as well. So how would you react to that?
Vijay, on-ground support in India, you know, again, there's a paradigm. Doesn't cost as much as it does in the Western world. Our people costs are lesser. Our office space costs are lesser, and perhaps you can do without office space or without large office space. And to a customer, somebody knocking on his door is always welcome. Somebody saying, "Here's my mobile number. Call me whenever you want to," is better than calling a number which says, "For so and so dial 1, for so and so dial 2, for so and so dial 3." You know, they can never be a substitute. So in Sarovar, we've always believed that we deliver 25% of our hotel's business even today offline.
Wow.
And we think it's a tremendous opportunity that's not going to go away.
Okay. I'll end with asking you a question that I ask all my guests. What are your 3 mantras for success?
Sincerity, number one. I think the biggest one is sincerity. If you have it here, it'll work. 2 is consistency and hard work. I am not a genius. I'm an average intelligent person, but I've worked on applying myself and applying myself and applying myself. So more the Ivan Lendl kind of tennis player. You know, you need to have the consistency, you need to have the determination, you need to have the endurance. So sincerity, consistency, and making sure that you forever remember that your business is there because of your guest. In a lot of our cases, we forget the guest altogether and focus purely on systems and conveyor belt approach. As long as you focus on the guest, you won't go wrong.
You know, Ajay, you made 3 points, and I can vouch that you actually adopt all of those 3 points, and you sort of work with those all the time. In that sense, you've used a lot of references to tennis, so I'll say you really aced it. And wish you all the best for the future. Wish you all success, and I'm looking to get you back when Sarovar Hotels has now 200 hotels. Okay, that's just doubling up time.
Thank you for those wishes. Thank you for having me again. Absolute pleasure.
All the best. Stay safe, stay well, everybody, and look forward to the next announcement for our next Fireside Chat. Hopefully you're getting value from this. But as we wait for our May event, please stay safe and well. All the best, everybody. Thank you.